Hello, good evening and welcome to my humble model railway, Bedstead Junction. Tonight we're going to have a bit of a bumper running session. It's Sunday night. It's Sunday, October the 10th, 2021. And it's just coming up to about 8 o'clock, I think, 8 o'clock in the evening. And what I do is I'm going to run some locomotives this evening and talk about them and how and why they came into my collection. And tonight I'm going to probably be calling this a vintage running session because a lot of these locomotives, I think they're probably all at least 20 years old, possibly more. Okay, so without any further ado, we've got our first locomotive running. Now it's up in the far corner there at the moment at the station, and here it comes. It's probably a goods train, and it's a mainline goods, a mainline Collett goods, number 3205. Now I do believe 3205 in reality, if you look at the real locomotive, is the only preserved Collett goods in existence. I think it did spend some time on the West Somerset Railway. In fact, I had the privilege of being behind this locomotive one day. Now, it was one of the reasons why I bought it, and I bought this in the early 1990s, and I think this locomotive comes from about the late 1970s. Okay, so it was already quite old when I bought it. We're talking a bit about the model itself. It's a mainline split chassis locomotive, and personally I don't mind split chassis. A lot of people out there criticise these models. The only main drawback you have is that they might be a bit difficult to convert to DCC. I've seen it being done, some determined individuals have done it, but me being Mr. Analog, then at the moment I don't intend to go DCC. I'll be sticking with the conventional DC system for the foreseeable future. But as you see, it's lovely at 060 Collett goods, and running quite well. Now, this would have been kept up in the attic. It's a pre-lockdown purchase, like I say, from about the early 1990s, and it was making its own smoke effects when it was going around the track and not running very well. And I cleaned it up. It's one of the advantages of having this kind of motor. This is a kind of a ring-filled style pod style motor inside one of these, and I could take it apart, clean all the parts. Now inside, the actual interior of the engine, the actual motor was totally black. Everything was totally black. It was horrible, and I cleaned it all up now, and sorted it all out and everything. As you can see, it's running quite well now. And you can actually get brushes and springs for these particular models, so they are serviceable. And that's one of the advantages of such a locomotive, is that they are serviceable. One of the disadvantages, which someone might cite, is that you can get trouble with the axles, because the axles are like nylon tubes between the wheels to insulate each wheel from each other, and they can sometimes go. But to be fair, you're talking about a locomotive which was built at the very, very latest, 1984, when Mainline was given up by its parent company, Palatoy. Okay, that's when Mainline then went through the process of becoming briefly under the banner of Replica Railways a lot of the time, and then finally becoming Bachmann. The Bachmann that we see and know enough today. Okay, so now I bought this in a modern railway shop, and it's a bit of a sad situation really nowadays. I mean, with the lockdown and everything, and the fact that it's not easy to get to a modern railway shop these days. Even post lockdown, I think there's only one or two modern railway shops in Bristol. The nearest is right in the centre of Bristol. That, you know, I've been buying all of my models online at the moment during the lockdown, and this actually came from a modern railway shop long closed, Trains of Bristol. I saw it there in the glass case. It was not a box, but it was one of those shops that well wrapped. It was well wrapped. They put it in an old-fashioned paper bag, and they actually called their customers sir. Okay, very, very nice people. Father and son operation. And that's a very, very nice thing to be able to go to a model railway shop, I think, and look at it. I didn't know anything about model trains or anything like that. It was just I'd already seen 3205 on the West Somerset Railway, and I wanted a model of it, and there it was in his glass case. And as you see, after all this time, working perfectly, with a little bit of TLC, of course, and it's putting a nice little freight train there. A mixture of Dapple, Batman and Hornby, actually, the stuff. The sacks of salt is Dapple, I believe. The Royal Daylight wagon, tank wagon is, oil wagon is Dapple. Then the circus wagon is Hornby. The China Clay wagon is Batman, I believe. And then it's a Lima, definitely a Lima, is the beer wagon, the Watnitz beer wagon. And then you've got an Oxford rail brake van at the back, the 6-wheel brake van. That's probably about the only, one of the very, very few sort of like lockdown or post-lockdown purchases I've actually made. Okay, we're going to have to run this through as fast as we can, these particular ones. We'll try and get as much as we can inside half an hour. It was just an idea that crossed my mind tonight. Well, today and tonight, I'd run this bumper vintage session. Now, we'll just watch this one go over the points, and bear in mind it's split chassis. Sorry to actually turn the light off just momentarily there. So it's got. Now then, we'll just get onto the points there, and we'll drive her in. We'll just watch her go in. Okay, over the points, no problem. And bear in mind that these locomotives only pick up current from the 6 driving wheels. Okay, they actually pick up the current directly into the chassis, split chassis, through the motor and through the other side. There are no wires inside the split chassis locomotive. One of the great advantages. Okay, now we're going to switch on to our next locomotive in our bumper vintage running session tonight, and it's going to be this one. Again, something I bought. If I remember rightly, I bought this at a modern railway show in the early to mid 1990s, and it's going to be a 14XX with an auto coach. And both the 14XX and the auto coach were both bought at a modern exhibition or a toy and train fair. Now we just watch her go round. Airfix, Great Modern Railways. I will let her run round in reverse, I think. Pardon me. And that's quite in order for these locomotives, of course, because it's running an auto coach. And as you see, I've got it running not too badly. It's got sort of broken handrails on the side of the cab. It was broken when I bought it, but it was quite cheap. And at the time, I don't think you could even get hold of the Dapple style 14XXs. It was the first XX 14XX I actually saw on sale, and I picked it up as a runner, but slightly damaged. And as you see, I've got it going quite well again. This is another one was sat up in the attic for ages. And the Airfix coach again was bought brand new as well. Back then, I don't think it was brand new, but it was boxed. It was like brand new. You can imagine one of these actually going down the Clevedon branch for a journey down towards the seaside, and maybe people will spend the day walking along the seafront and go along the onto Clevedon Pier. Now, one thing that I would point out, if ever you do actually buy an Airfix model, just out of curiosity, the actual pickups are like sprung plungers. They're like little telescopic spring plungers. They're not like the bent bits of metal that you've got today for pickups, and they're quite good actually. If you keep them clean and make sure that the actual plungers aren't stuck, they will keep up good contact with the wheels. And as you can see, it's actually going over the points reasonably well. As I say, I'm hoping that I'll be able to start going to more model railway exhibitions now. I mean, my personal circumstances have changed dramatically, as some of you may have seen in one of my videos when I took a break from the railway for a while. And now that I'm back, I've got lots of time on my hands where I can actually go to these, start going to model railway exhibitions and to toy and train fairs. Hopefully get a chance to have a look and pick up some bargains maybe. I can't remember how much I paid for this one. Let's have a look, shall we? Hang on, photo. £15.50. All the instructions in the box and everything. You can see the motor. I've not touched the motor ever, not since I bought it. But what can you pick up for £15.50 these days? You wouldn't even get a body for one of these. I nearly bought a body for one of these, and I just balked at the price. Somebody wanted 25 quid just for a body for one of these. And I suspect what some people are doing actually is they're breaking their locos up and selling them separately for spares, trying to get more money for it, rather than sell it as a complete unit. If they're doing it, good luck. Some of them can make a few extra quid, but I don't know. Does it mean somebody's breaking up locos? You start to see bits of locos for sale now, and some of the prices are getting quite high even just for the bits. That was a complete loco for £15.50. Oh, okay, from the mid 1990s, of course, inflation allowed and all that sort of thing. Was it £15.50, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay, we'll be bringing this one in just a moment. But I thought I'd give you a chance to see what one of these little engines are like. In fact, what we'll do is we'll stop her up at the station, up at the far station over there. And we can reverse it, because they can run either way. This is an auto train, so you can imagine it's got to a destination now, and it's dropped its passengers off, and it's coming back round now. And there we are. I mean, okay, fair enough. The handrail's a bit thick on it. You can see there, but is it there separately fitted? It's got the chimney painted black, which very often they did. They didn't have the copper coloured chimneys. And it's got the steam dome. It's obviously got the safety fold cover, Great Western style, and then the whistles for a little bit further back as well. But a very nice little model, this one. £14.66. Now I believe 1466 is the one we should do. Is the one that was preserved that did cut. Okay. And I think that's another reason why I bought it, because it was a model of a preserved example. I know some people don't go for that, it's not their thing, but if you can get a model of a preserved locomotive, that does give you an awful lot of artistic license about what you run on your railway. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to run this one in. I'm going to move on to our next railway, next locomotive on this bumper running session. And again, we'll watch this one go over the points. This is an all Airfix train. In it comes into the little halt down there. Perfect. So our passengers can happily get out at their destination now. Now, the next locomotive, we're going to get a real close look at it before she runs out. Okay, and I'll explain something about the background of this locomotive here, because to me it is rather special. Now, at the time this locomotive here was out. It was only available as King Edward I, as if I can remember rightly. And it was a model, it was in GWR green. Now what happened was, the person that had this locomotive has heavily customised it, okay? I think I've shown this on another video in the past, but we'll go over this again. And this must represent hours of work by this particular individual. And I picked this model up for 30 quid, I believe. And it was, again, from Trains of Bristol. It was in the glass case, and I wanted a King. And I wanted one in BR livery. And at the time, you couldn't find any. The most common example out there was King Edward I in Great Western livery. Okay, and also there was quite a few design compromises made on that locomotive. This one's been changed completely. He's added a double chimney to it. I think he's changed the steam pipes, put lamps there on the side. He's added the early crest onto the tender, repainted it. An awful lot of work's gone into this particular locomotive. Now, it's tender powered, okay? Now, a lot of people don't like tender powered locomotives. I say, to me, once it's running around the track, I don't really mind too much, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this one out to the station. King Edward I. Out she goes. Gracefully coming out the station, of course. Or Hornby King. And it's interesting to go over the details of why the King class locomotives came around, because it was really a lot to do with publicity in many ways. I'm just going to change the points and we'll elaborate further on it. Now, all the railways, pre-grouping and then post-grouping, all wanted to trump each other with publicity. Obviously, with the LNER and the Midland and the predecessor of those two, they were involved in the Race of the North. Okay, the Races of the North, who could get fastest to Scotland. Of course, that's ones like the Coronation class of locomotive for the NMS, and the Flying Scotsmans, and the A4 Pacifics, Mallard, the world speed record is by Mallard. But with the Southern and the Great Western, it was very much to do with getting trains as fast as possible into Plymouth and into Cornwall. Okay, and also there seemed to be a bit of an arms race going on over tractive efforts. Okay, now we're going to just see if we can get this moving forward. We'll have a little watch it go round. Bear in mind it's tender powered. Again, this is one I've not touched it. I think it's all I've done is occasionally just oil the cogs in the motor. You can hear it running perfectly well now. And let's be really completely honest now. I mean, if you didn't know it was tender powered, it won't make any difference to you, would it? Okay, we're running quite happily around the track now. Like I say, I bought this in about 1990, again, 1990, 1991. This is when I first became interested in the actual hobby of modern railways. And at the time, as far as I know, and please excuse me if I'm wrong on this, but I don't think there was a BR version of the King available. And this is why this person who owned this before me decided to build his own. Round she goes. Now, the Kings and certainly the Lord Nelson class. I mean, the King for Great Western and Lord Nelson for the Southern. That was a combination of like a kind of a power armed race and tractive effort. I mean, first of all, you had the Great Western Railway, sort of went top trumps with the Castle class of locomotive on tractive effort. But then the Southern Railway came out with the Lord Nelson class of locomotives and the Great Western's answer to this was the King's. But what that meant is that, of course, as you built these bigger and bigger and more powerful locomotives, the rinse availability was a little bit more restrictive. Obviously, with the train so heavy, there were certain routes these locomotives couldn't go over, and I should imagine the same went for the Southern Railway Lord Nelson Class 2, and that's why these particular examples were limited to 30. But they were used on all the crack expresses like the Cornish Riviera Express. And the coaches, I mean, even though these are the front two are at Hornby Railroad, they're very recent purchase. The back one is a 1990s purchase, and so is the complete 3 coaches on the other locomotive I'm about to show you. Okay, so what we've done, we have a nice chance to actually do this. What we're going to do is, well, we're going to stop this one over in the station opposite, okay, and we're going to imagine that it is letting his passengers off at the country station over there. So there it is now in the country station, okay, and we're going to have a look at this locomotive down here. This is a Saint class. George Jackson Churchward design, St David. Okay, now this is a Hornby model. This Hornby model was produced in around about 1986. Okay, and on these particular ones, the service sheets always give you the dates of the locomotives when they were made. I'm not sure they still do that, but we can always have a look and just see. It'll take me just 3 seconds to come out with it. Yes. Here we are. So we read that. Get it in focus. 1986, you can see it there, it's a bit folded over. There we go. I should imagine that was made on the 20th of November in 1986, okay? So again, it's a fairly old locomotive, this one here, St David. I mean, the other one, which is the King, which is up in the station up there, it's just hidden behind the goods shed at the moment. That one is from the 1970s. That one again became, that one was not box, and they didn't have a service sheet with it. So, really, basically, I just, like I said, I didn't really need ones as such, because I knew I'd find out how to take the tender off, and then it's all I've done is just oiled the gears along by the side of the motor. Okay, so we're going to let our little King run around a little bit more now. Here it comes. Picking up speed. Just went a bit blurry then. Ah, there we are, we're back in focus again. And you can see it's pulling the Collett coaches. Absolutely superb. And I don't know that. Okay, this one was a little bit noisy, but since all in the gears, it's gone very, very quiet again now. And it's a very, very nice little runner. Loving it. I mean, the Kings were finally all retired in 1962. And that had a lot to do with the fact that by then, they'd undergone a very, very, very large amount of modifications and power increases, and basically the frames had given out on a lot of them, and so they were retired. I mean, really in effect, some of them were really worn out, and they were replaced by the warships and by the Western classes when the Great Western Railway decided to go diesel, or at least the Western region of British Rail decided to go diesel. And in fact, for the Western region of British Rail, D-Day or Diesel Day should have been the end of 1965, but because there was a delay on the bus getting alternative bus services on the Somerset and Dorset, they actually finally went totally diesel in March 1966. That was the last corner of the Western region of British Rail that was still running steam engines. The S&D, the good old S&D. Okay. So we're going to bring this King in. Like I said, we'll give me a brief little talk about each one now, and then we can have just enough time to run our King David round. Now bear in mind, this is a tender powered locomotive, okay? And back then, all of the Hornby stuff was tender powered. In fact, they've got the ring-filled motor inside the tenders of these, and hence that's why some of them have got a pretty high coal load to accommodate the actual ring-filled motor. Okay, so we'll just bring this one into the station now, and then we can run our final train, which is being hauled by the lovely King David, the Saint class. And then that's it, and in she comes. Really nice locomotive, this one. Like I say, when you watch this locomotive going, okay, it looks like an old, no, it's an old model, I know. But bear in mind, the person who wanted to turn this into a British Rail King, and he would have done it from the Great Western version. And it would, and this actually did have some very, very heavy modifications to make it look like it does now, like you see now. And that's a representation of hours and hours of work. Okay. And then we've got our St. David just beyond it there, which is just about to be running out now at the station. These are the first of the Great Western 460s, express passenger locomotives. We're just going to see if we can get out to the station just a moment. Yeah, we should just about do it. Now bear in mind, this locomotive is from 1986. Okay, so it's been around a long time, and you could actually say that all of these locomotives have basically earned their keep. They've earned their stripes. I mean, this is the only sort of lockdown purchase I've actually got in this collection tonight. The one there, for that's actually a lockdown purchase. And I bought this last year. It's one of my first lockdown purchases. I've got this, and I've also got the Saint class Cleveland Court. The first of a dynasty of twin cylinder 460s. I mean, the King was a 4-cylinder design. Basically, an evolution of the Star class. And then, with the Saint class, you had other locomotives sprang from it, like the Hulls, the Manors, the Granges. 260 locomotives. Not 260, sorry, 460. 2 cylinders, 460. And again, a tender driven locomotive, perfectly fine. I've not touched the motor. In fact, on all of my locomotives, apart from oiling, like I say, doing a light oiling, I've never touched the gears of the actual locomotive motors. The gearing I have, just a light oiling. But I've never removed the brushes, the springs, anything like that. It's been absolutely fine. And as you see, it's a nice little runner now. I mean, it was a little bit arthritic when I first had it, but I think this one was actually a part of someone's personal collection, and it was and it may have been kept in storage for some considerable time. But I gave it a good cleaning. What I do find a good substance to get for cleaning locomotives is just contact cleaner. It doesn't harm anything, and it evaporates quite quickly. Modern contact cleaner, and that's pretty good for cleaning out anywhere where there's electrical contact, really. On this one, I clean the axles up, give it good oiling afterwards. But as you see, she's running very, very well. The Hornby Saint. Now I should bid you farewell, okay? And if you like what you see, like and subscribe. And thank you very, very much for watching. And thank you for your interest. I bid you farewell and goodbye.